guys, sorry for my absence. I know it's been a little longer than usual. I had some stuff going on, but most of it's taken care of now, so I'm easing back into videos with this topic that I've been thinking about for the whole year. I'm an avid reader, you guys know that, but there are a lot of other important areas of my life that I don't talk about on this channel. I'm guessing that's true for pretty much all of you. Unless you were in a very special position, you don't have hours and hours of every day to devote to reading. But still, I've read way more books this year than I have in any other year of my life, like way more. But it doesn't feel that way, because when it comes to reading, more actually feels like less. As you become aware of more authors, you find new favorite authors whose backlists you want to explore. You discover new interests that you didn't even know you had. So more than ever this year, I've been confronted with a big question. How do I balance reading widely versus specializing in a few areas? I've seen some awesome videos about the idea of being well-read. Rincey from Rincey Reads has an older discussion about it, and more recently, Knowledge Lost and Molly DeMontagne had videos asking questions like, will I ever be well-read, and what does that even mean? And then Steve Donahue had an interesting video response to those questions, and he claims that there's a difference between being well-read and widely read, and that you can absolutely become well-read. All you need to do is to read the most influential books ever written, as he says, the ones that cast the longest literary shadows. And to help, he has one of my favorite series on BookTube called the Western Canon Starter Kit. It's super inspiring and approachable. I'll link it down below. In fact, I'll link all the videos that I just mentioned down below. But when it comes to being widely read, Steve admits that that's much, much harder. There are so many books in the world. Just full of insights today, you guys. But seriously, for the purposes of this discussion, it's worth stating the obvious. It would be crazy enough to just focus on new releases, right? But if you add all of publishing history, it becomes like impossible, absolutely impossible, for there not to be Jupiter-sized holes in your reading. Now, it's not a goal of mine to read every book or even every genre, because obviously there's plenty of stuff that I have no interest in, but I still have so many mini reading passions. I want to read more Central European authors, especially Czech authors. I want to read more about the history of Central and Eastern Europe, especially about the Austrian Empire. I could make several videos about František Palacký's letter to the Frankfurt Parliament, and a lot of you probably don't know what that is because the American education system treats Europe like there's a black hole between Germany and Russia, but that kind of stuff fascinates me. I want to read more about Judaism, ancient and modern. I had a Jewish studies minor in school, and I loved what I read in those classes. I want to focus more on Spanish language lit, especially Latin American authors. A couple years ago, I read Don Quixote in Spanish, and now I feel like I couldn't even read, like, Goodnight Moon. I want to read a lot more from and about the Victorians. I love Victorian novels, and I've only read, like, I don't know, 25 of them maybe? And then there's neo-Victorian novels, which I could also eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I want to focus more on Russian lit. A year ago, I made a Russian literature TBR that I haven't even made a dent in. And when I was growing up, I was always involved in theater, so I'd like to become more well-versed in plays. And it'd be nice not to be such a poetry dunce. And if you've been following my channel, you know how much I love the Bailey's Prize, which is now called the Women's Prize for Fiction. And I really want to specialize in contemporary women authors, especially ones who write mostly literary fiction. I have a huge list of women authors that I've read and whose backlists I really want to get under my belt. I also want to read more fantasy. I'm in the middle of a trilogy right now that I'm just living for and is totally reminding me of how much I loved fantasy as a kid. I always want to educate myself more about feminism. I want to read more from and about Indigenous North Americans. I love classical singing. It would be fantastic to read more about the history of opera. I'm not a big battles person, but I also am interested in the politics behind wars, especially the Civil War and the two World Wars. Are you seeing the problem? I could keep going, but I've already thrown out, what, like 15 categories? As it is, I read around 10 to 15 books a month, and a lot of those don't even fall into any of those categories. I'm just interested in them individually. So maybe over the next 20 years, I'll eventually have read enough of one of those areas to claim some kind of a specialty. But for now, I'm not an expert in anything, like not even close. And yeah, I know that I'm 25 years old, but plenty of readers are more specialized, I think, by this point. And also, I don't even know if I'm on the road to having a focus. The thing is, I love reading widely. Like, when my non-reader friends and family ask me if I ever get tired of reading, I say, okay, occasionally I'm not in the mood to read, but how could I ever really get bored of it? It's not like reading is the same activity over and over again. Even within subgenres of subgenres, there's endless variety. There's so much different stuff to explore. But I also think it's important to have some focus in something, to develop deep knowledge of an area, not just enough to have a cocktail conversation about. And I've been struggling to do either this year, really. So I'm wondering, should I drop variety for a little while and really go after a specific author or time period or topic? What would that feel like? But if I did that, would I miss all the other different kinds of books that make me light up? So tell me in the comments what different bookish categories most interest you and how you go about balancing the depth and breadth of your reading. Or is that something that you don't even think about, Let me know. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.